Welcome back everyone. I don't think I need to tell you what I'm filming today. These are all the books that I read in March. Let's talk about them. I read 13 books this month, which is probably the most that I've ever read in a given month so far. And the fun thing is most of these books were 4 or 5 stars. So I have had an absolutely great reading month. You know the drill. As always, I'm going to give you my rating for the book as well as a brief description and then my thoughts. I think it's also worth noting that pretty much all of these books have a reading vlog associated with them, so make sure to check the rest of those videos that I posted in March. This month was off to a great start because I started with The Favourites by Lane Fargo and I gave this book 4.5 stars. This story follows a professional ice dancer's career and it takes us through the brutal and glamorous world of ice skating. Katerina, our main character's story, is told through snippets of the documentary that's being filmed as well as flashbacks presented to us by Katerina herself. We get 2 sides to her story. There's sabotage, there's elite rivalry, there's competitiveness, there's love, loss and betrayal. I think this was amazingly done. As for my personal thoughts, it's told very much in the style of Daisy Jones and the Six, and I really do love the way that that story was told, as in the cutting of interviews versus what actually happened. And I just really love how this competitive world was presented to us, all the betrayal, all the gruesome sabotage. Every single character in this story is grey in the sense that they are not great people, but somehow you're rooting for all of them. It was extraordinary. I enjoyed it a lot, and what a good way to start the month. My next book was Wild Side by Elsie Silver, and I gave this book 4 stars. We return to Rose Hill, and if you're not aware, the rest of this series is a small town romance series set in Rose Hill in Canada. Our main character, Tabitha's older sister, dies at the beginning of this book following a long-standing battle with prescription medication, and Tabitha holds her sister's landlord, Reese, accountable for her death because she believes that Reese evicted the sister, which then led to a downward spiral, which then led to her death. But there's one complication. Tabitha's sister has left her son in the guardianship of Reese. So the man that Tabitha hates and believes responsible for her sister's death is now the legal guardian of her nephew Milo. But Reese is an American who is secretly a wrestler for Elsie Silver's version of the WWE. Also means he cannot stay in Canada for an extended period of time. Tabitha really wants Milo to be raised in Rose Hill, surrounded by the people he loves. So they come up with the idea of a marriage of convenience, which would allow Reese to stay in Canada for an extended period of time, but also allow Milo to thereby be raised amongst the people he loves. I really love Elsie Silver's small town romances. That shelf behind me right there is full of Elsie Silver's other books. There is just something about them. They hit the way that no other Western or small town romance has hit. The one thing I will say is grief was kind of glossed over a little, especially for Milo, whose mum just died. It seems almost used as a plot device to push our main characters closer together rather than actually being explored. So that's the one criticism I do have of this book. Other than that, I like this series, I like this world, I really enjoyed their romance, and yeah, this was just a fun little read and I had a good time. As for the next 4 books I read, I'm going to present them as one because they were all 5 stars. These are the first 4 books of the Harry Potter series. I'm not even going to bother giving you a summary of what these books are about. You know damn well, Harry Potter. I read these as part of a video and it's probably my favorite video that I've ever created. That'll be, I think, 2 videos before this one, so go check that out. It's the coziest little vlog I've ever made. Yeah, what can I say? I said this in that video and I'll say it again, but there are some worlds to us as readers that just feel like home, and for me, the Harry Potter world and the entire Wizarding world is definitely the one. Reading these books feels like a warm hug. It feels like coming home, and I didn't realize just how much I'd missed them until I picked them up. I haven't actually done a full reread of the whole Harry Potter series since 2022, so it's been 3 years, and I forgot just how incredible these books were. Like, no wonder I fell in love with this universe. These are obviously the more light-hearted books of the Harry Potter series. Things start getting dark at the end of Goblet of Fire, so I'm excited to pick up the other 3, which I think I'll do next month or the month after. Adore this world, and I always will. And definitely go check out that vlog where we unbox my Weasley sweater. Next up was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This book follows Haymitch during his Hunger Games, which was a quarter quell, and that's pretty much all the summary that you need for this book. Oh my god. This put me in a fragile emotional state. So amazing. Suzanne Collins always has been and always remains a wizard with words, because this, Oh my goodness. The way she pulled out little Easter eggs from the Hunger Games books and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and injected them in here so that random things that you might not have even given a second thought suddenly makes sense. My heart breaks for Haymitch. I truly think he has gone through the most out of any Hunger Games character, if we're being honest. Half of this book was spent setting up who Haymitch was before the Hunger Games destroyed him, and I really did like it. I really loved getting to know this hopeful, sweet boy, and then, you know, it all gets torn away from him in the most excruciating way. And truly, I don't know how he kept going, especially after seeing Katniss, Braid, Mockingjay Pin, like all of that. Oh my god, my heart goes out to Haymitch. Genuinely, I'm still kind of in pain from it. Like I can't stop thinking about it. Genuinely excellent. But the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars was I don't feel as much connection to Haymitch as I did to Katniss. And this might be because I haven't reread the Hunger Games books since like 2012 or something, so it's been a long while, but I still don't have that sort of connection to Haymitch the way I did for Katniss. But I feel if I had done a reread of the Hunger Games before this book came out, perhaps I would have been very much locked in. Perhaps it would have been a 5 stars, but it was incredible in every way. And then I kind of wanted to heal my heart after reading Sunrise and the Reaping, so I went straight to Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, which was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. Sadly, I gave this 3 stars, which isn't a bad rating at all. I just don't think it lived up to Abby Jimenez's usual standard. In this book, we follow... Wait, I don't even know what the characters' names are. We follow Xavier and Samantha. Samantha goes to Xavier, who is a vet, to get her cat checked out, and that's how they first meet. Xavier is grumpy and cold, and we're told several times that he looks like Rhysand. And Samantha is definitely the opposite of that. She's very sweet, very bubbly. It's like a little Grumpy versus Sunshine. Very, very early on in the book, they end up admitting that they like each other and they go on a date, and it's the best date that they've ever had. However, Samantha is leaving the very next day to a completely different state and is not coming back. She needs to be over there to take full-time care of her mother. But Xavier can't stop thinking about her, and she can't stop thinking about Xavier. So that is pretty much how the story goes. Much like Abby Jimenez's other books, it's a cute relationship. Quick, witty, engaging writing style, and of course she deals with heavier topics with a lot of grace. However, I didn't really connect to our characters, and I especially did not connect to our romance. It was so insta-lovey. The attraction to each other was like that. I just can't get on board with that, I'm sorry. The first few chapters were excellent, I will say that. So if the rest of the book had proceeded in that sort of vein, I would have been fine. But yeah, I think it was just the insta-love for me. It made me just not care, because I'm like, okay, you like each other. You're obviously going to get on a plane to go see each other. What is there to talk about? So yeah, it didn't do it for me. Obviously this is not my job, but if I were creating this book, I would have made this separation between them last several years. And I know that's kind of agonizing, but that's also kind of the whole point. Like, I would have made Samantha move, and then they just don't see each other for many, many, many years until a chance meeting, and then the sparks reignite, you know? I will be waiting for her next book, because Abby Jimenez, I'll read anything she writes. Thank you so much to NetGalley and to her chat for the arc. The next book... I'm still screaming internally about the fact I got this arc. You should have seen me the day I opened the arc. I was screeching, I was bouncing around the house. This is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto, and it's a 5 out of 5. I can't stop thinking about this book. We follow Bryony, who is the princess of a magical kingdom that is overrun and conquered by the enemy, and all of the remaining survivors who are not killed are auctioned and sold off as slaves to high-ranking enemy nobility. So Bryony's people and the enemy people, they have a different sort of magical power, and the enemy wishes to use its slaves to take their magic, to kind of siphon that power and make them more powerful. I don't know if I described that very well, but yeah, this is a fantasy romance. So the main thing propelling the story forward is the romance. Something really important about my rating for this book is this was actually a Dramini fan fiction called The Auction. I have talked about The Auction on this channel. I absolutely adored it. It was a dark universe in which Voldemort won, and all of the members of the Order of the Phoenix were enslaved, sold off to prominent Death Eater families. Hermione Granger, our main character, gets sold off to Malfoy. But Malfoy deliberately bought her to protect her and save her, and yeah, fantastic fanfic. I absolutely adored it. So I already knew this was going to be sitting on at least 4 stars. And I was really keen to see how Julie Soto would manage to rework it into Rose in Chains, an original story with an original world without the foundation of the Wizarding World to kind of hold the story up. There are very recognizable Wizarding World touches in this story, but it's a completely new world, completely new magic system. This is a dark romantasy and I ate up every single crumb. It doesn't really matter if you're into Hermione or not, this story has nothing to do with that. It is a phenomenal reworking. I loved it so much. And it's the first in a trilogy, so for the next 3 years, guess what I'm gonna be reading and screaming about every single time a new one drops? Romantasy is so back. And thank you so much to Harper Voyager Australia. May both sides of your pillow be cold, because you made my day. This is the best arc I've ever received. The next book was similarly incredible. 5 stars to Blood Over Bright Haven by ML1. In this book, we follow a girl called Sayona who wants to become the first ever female high mage in this magical society that is intensely patriarchal. She does it, she passes her exams, she's admitted into the university as a high mage, but because of the inherent weaknesses of her sex, she is given a refugee janitor as her research assistant. This janitor is from an oppressed group called the Quen inside Sayona's world. But together, Sayona and her research assistant come to find out a really devastating dark secret that is under the foundations of their magical society. This was unbelievable. The way that this magic system was written was so unique and so intricate as well. I've never seen any sort of magic be explained the way it is in this book. If any of you are familiar with a short story by Ursula K. Le Guin, it is called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, and it's about a society that is a utopia. Everyone has everything. Everyone is so joyful. Life is perfect. But it all relies on the suffering of one human child. So one child goes through suffering without reprieve, and because of that child's pain, the city can flourish. That is the concept of The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, and it's a very similar concept as what you'll see in this book. This is like the adult version of it. It's just absolutely spectacular. And thank you, Penguin, for sending me Blood Over Bright Haven. The next book I read was Beg, Borrow and Steal by Sarah Adams, because I kind of wanted to decompress after reading Blood Over Bright Haven. I ended up giving it 3 stars out of 5. Again, decent rating, but it's just not my favorite. This story is about 2 teachers who are rivals in a small town called Rome. Our main character, Emily, she's working really hard on secretly writing a book, and Jack, who is her rival, has just moved in next door to her and is actually kind of helping her with this book. Jack himself is actually an author as well. He writes under a secret pen name, so yeah, they work it out together. Was it sweet? Absolutely. But I couldn't bring myself to care about these characters or their romance. Like, I just don't know what to say. I was very disconnected from them. But this also might be a me problem, because I've read 2 of this author's other books before and I didn't like them. Just not the author for me, I think. And then I read another romance which was highly talked about on TikTok. It was Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I gave it 3.5 stars. This is another romance book, but it centers a lot on grief. So our main character, Lenny's best friend, who was like a sister to her, has just passed away. She's living rough. She's also working as a nanny. The child that she's babysitting has an uncle, a grumpy, sulky, cynical uncle. His name is Miles, but Miles actually knows a thing or 2 about grief, and he ends up helping Lenny walk herself out of the darkness. It was a good book. It touches on important themes. However, I've come to the conclusion that I'm just not in my romance era at the moment. I'm definitely in my fantasy or fantasy romance era. I can see that it was a good book, and I think if I'd read it at another point in the year, I would have absolutely loved it, but as it stands, it just wasn't what I needed at the moment. Having at this point realized that I was not in my romance era, but I was definitely in my fantasy romance era, I picked up The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton. I gave this book 4 stars. It's exactly what I needed. This book is set in the 19th century and it's about 2 rival ornithologists who are competing to capture a magical bird. That sounds so boring, I know, but stay with me. In this specific world, the birds are not just birds, they have magical powers. And ornithology is not just staring at birds through a binocular. In this world, it is a cunning, ruthless profession. There is betrayal, intense competition, sabotage, spies in every corner trying to see you fail. This turned ornithology into perhaps the most exciting profession I have ever seen in my life. We follow Beth Pickering and Devon Lockley, who are two professors in ornithology and longtime rivals. And initially they're on opposite sides, they're kind of working against each other, but they eventually end up teaming up. If you enjoyed books like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, even though that's a fanfic. Essentially, if you want a cozy fantasy rom-com, this is it. The wit, top notch. The banter is amazing. The story is exciting and thrilling, and it's just so well written. I had such a good time. This was just a lot of fun, and it's the sort of book that has you giggling out loud while you're in public. Thank you so much, Penguin, for the copy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And those are all the books that I read in March. I'm so happy. It was such a good time. But with that being said, there is always something to look forward to when you're a reader. So let's go through April releases that I'm really excited for. On the 1st of April, we are getting Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. This has kind of been pitched as Succession meets Umbrella Academy. A wealthy CEO dies and his children, who are gifted with telekinetic and electrokinetic abilities, engage in a bit of rivalry over who will get to take over their father's company. We are following 3 potential heirs, each of whom have a magical ability, each of whom have their own secrets and skeletons in the closet as they battle to access their father's fortune. This sounds amazing, honestly, and Olivia Blake's books have not worked for me in the past, but I do love her fan fiction, so I know that I like her writing. It's just that her previous books haven't worked for me. This sounds unbelievably cool. It's such a cool concept, and I definitely do want to get my hands on that. The next book comes out on the 8th of April, and it is Fearless by Lauren Robert. It is the conclusion to the Powerless trilogy, and based on the cliffhanger that Reckless left us on, I need to know what happens next. This is an entertaining YA romantasy series. It's just fun. If you have read the rest of the series, you know Peyton has a choice to make, and there is a little bit of a spanner in the works. Very interested and kind of anxious to know what happens. The next book is The Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton. It is the second book after The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, except this time we're following Gabriel Tarrant and Elodie Tarrant. Gabriel Tarrant is Devon Lockley's cousin, and he was introduced to us in The Ornithologist's book. From what we know, he's grumpy, not very expressive, and from what Goodreads is telling me right now, this is a marriage of convenience that occurs, except Elodie secretly loves Gabriel, and Gabriel is pining for Elodie. They're literally married, but they don't know the other person likes them. And you know what? As much as I don't love a miscommunication trope, I do love reading about absolute idiots in love. On the 15th of April, we are going to have Watch Me by Tahira Murphy, which is the newest book in the Shatter Me series. This is set 10 years after Juliet and Aaron's story, and it follows their son, James. The re-establishment is gearing up to take over the world once again, and their last remaining stronghold is a place called Ark Island, and this is where Rosabelle Wolfe, who is our female main character, is trained as a ruthless assassin. James has to infiltrate this stronghold, so it's going to be enemies to lovers. I think we know that right off the bat. I don't know anything else about this story, but I did like Shatter Me when I was a kid, so why not? On the 22nd of April, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Streets are saying that this is like The Last Great American Dynasty by Taylor Swift. We follow Alice, Sunshine, and Hayden, Grumpy, who are both authors, and they are tasked with writing the biography of a lady on an island who was once a tragic heiress, a mysterious socialite, and the child of one of the most scandalous, wealthy families of the 20th century. This heiress invites both of them to come compete for who will be able to write her biography, and she does so by giving each author little snippets of information. They are rivals, but they have some sort of unexplained yearning for one another. I will read anything that Emily Henry writes. I have all her books behind me. Love Emily Henry so much. Very, very excited for that. I think it is my most anticipated April release. And at the very, very end of April is King of Envy by Anna Huang. This is the 5th installment in her Kings of Sin series, and we follow Vuk and Ayana. Vuk, as we know, he doesn't really interact with people, very stoic, very just he doesn't talk, but he is obsessed with Ayana, who is a model. I have not enjoyed Anna Huang's past 2 releases, I would say, so this is really the decision maker. If this book goes well, I'll continue reading the series, but if it doesn't, I think it's time for me to close the chapter on her books. But regardless, her writing is very addictive. I can acknowledge that. So I think regardless of what happens, I'm still gonna read the book. I'll check back in next month and tell you what I thought of these books. And that is it for this video. I had such a good March, and I am ready to have an even better April. I don't anticipate I'll be reading much in April because I do have some things to do, but You know what? I say that and I'll be sitting before you next month being like, I read 12 books probably. If you've gotten to this point in the video, let me know what your favorite read from March was and what you're looking forward to in April, and maybe I'll add something to my TBR. But I'll be seeing you next week. Bye!